You're listening to episode 210 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Dr. Diva Nagula.
Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hand, and I want to welcome you to Lifestyle Locker Radio. It is here where we talk all things lifestyle, from fitness to nutrition, peak performance to longevity, awesome relationships to inspirational stories. We take you on an amazing journey to all things life and lifestyle. Enjoy the ride. And for today's guest, if you want to learn more than they're going to tell you on this show, I urge you to scroll down, check out the show notes to get a detailed bio and everything you need to know about our guest today. We also encourage that you comment, review, and share this show if you are enjoying it from wherever and whenever you're listening. Lastly, we encourage you to check out all the links that we provide in the show notes. They are there for you, for your health, for your lifestyle. We ultimately want you to unleash your human potential. So dive into this episode. We'll see you on the inside. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lifestyle Locker Radio. Again, we have another amazing guest for you. His story is quite amazing. I think you're really going to connect with him. We have Dr. Diva Nagula here, and we're going to talk about his book, From Doctor to Patient. Usually you don't hear it that way, right? You know, people usually have some experience, then go back to maybe want to become a physician, maybe become a doctor. So Dr. Diva, welcome.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks. Appreciate you having me on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. I think you have quite an interesting journey. And a lot of people that have been on the show, I love hearing their stories. But what I tend to find is it's like a seed that gets planted with, and a lot of times it's not a pretty event or thing that happens in someone's life, but something always blossoms from this. So would you mind just going through some of your stories so our audience knows who you are?
Yes. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. So my journey has been one with a lot of bumps on the road, so to speak. And so my biggest bump that I overcame was when I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in February 12th of 2014. That was an eye-opener for me. And it was such an eye-opener at the time because I wasn't feeling bad. I was feeling quite healthy, and I was healthy. And it goes to show you that cancer can be within us and not even be apparent manifesting wise. And so for me, that's what was shocking to me. But nonetheless, that was really a game changer for me.
Yeah.
As it taught me a lot of things. It made me realize what life should really be like in terms of how to practice and trying to understand how to live a lifestyle that's more in rest and digest than in fight or flight. And as a physician who underwent a lot of training, medical school, residency, and then started his own practice right after residency and fellowship, there was no time for rest and digest. And it was all about, for me, it was survival. And unfortunately, that drive that I've had, it was compounding the problem, such that where my body was constantly in a state of inflammation. The stress was one culprit of the inflammation. Secondarily, I also had a lifestyle where I was not eating healthy. And I like to joke, as I wrote in my book, that the only vegetable or green that was in my food was a scrap of lettuce on my burger.
Yeah.
And that was pretty terrible. When I left home from high school, my mom and my dad were vegetarians, so I was constantly eating a lot of vegetables. But after I left and I was on my own, the amount of vegetable intake and nutrient intake was very poor. So you combine that lifestyle with stress and then not sleeping well and constantly just being in a state where I was always around toxins, environmental toxins. And that was a realization for me as to why I contracted cancer. And it wasn't a genetic cancer. That was the issue. I have no cancer history in my family. And so
Wow.
it was these culprits in order of severity that caused me to develop cancer.
Yeah. So this is interesting. So we'll circle back for a second. We have, you're speaking to, all sorts of different people in our audience, from entrepreneurs to students to professional athletes. And a lot of our audience, I mean, we go back to being a student when we were students, right? And even the students today are under such toxic stress. Like that mental stress is breaking them down. And I'm seeing like kids in New York City have to go to an interview to go to elementary school or middle school or high school. It blows my mind. So are we really, we talk about stress affecting the human frame, the structure of the whole body here. What are we doing to these kids that are now bringing, and you're ending up as this physician, your brain is full of tons of information, you're out to save the world, and now you contract all the stuff that you're helping fight against. Like, so what are we doing to these kids?
It's an irony, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then placing these stressors on kids is really not, in my opinion. If you're going to do that, then you have to teach them how to cope with stress and strategies that will combat this stress that they're being placed on by competition, by parents, by expectations. Um, and I think that's what I lacked when I was doing this. I didn't have any modalities where I was utilizing or taught how to decompress and how to cope with stress. And you would think that in medical school, where you're learning different ways, and learning about the body, learning about how to treat patients, you would think that they would teach you how to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And they don't. And in terms of how to eat well, how to eat healthy, the necessary number of hours of sleep that you need to get, how to measure these things. I'm a big proponent of measurement and having objective data with the utilization of heart rate variability monitoring.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah.
So
I love it.
I think that's a great tool for us now to utilize, and that gives you parameters on whether you are in fight or flight mode or you are in rest or digest mode, and you can see your score is increasing or decreasing, and then that will give you the mental wherewithal to take action to combat the excess of stress or fight or flight, or just stay in that rest or digest mode.
Yeah. So for you with your journey, and you say like once you left home, that's when some of those outside stressors, those outside in stressors, like food shifted, food changed.
Yeah.
School got harder,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Then, you said expectations and all these things. So, and with people to understand, I'm not the cancer expert, but, cancer starts by abnormal cells growing and creating a community and giving that environment, like that internal environment, the opportunity for bad stuff to happen. And, with what has gone on in your life, how do you, I know you talk about it in your book, but how do you start to share this with people to maybe bring some awareness that it's not like, oh, now I have cancer. We all have cancer cells in our body all the time, and we're smart and we're fighting off these problems. So how do we bring some awareness, to people to make some positive changes? And why don't you share with what you did to fight back, if you will?
Right. And fortunately, I was in a position where I had knowledge, and my excessive, I wouldn't say excessive, but my study habits, because I was studying so much during college and as well as medical school. So I was in research mode. And also I applied to a integrative medicine fellowship under Dr. Andy Weil. So I learned a lot of these techniques through his fellowship in terms of how to treat the body. But the biggest thing that I promote, and I think if everyone changes, is promoting a better lifestyle in terms of their diet. And I really feel that if you can change your diet, you can heal a lot of parts of your body. And that is reducing inflammation, promoting a healthier gut microbiome, and also feeding your body with essential phytonutrients to nourish the body and to provide it with nutrients that it can thrive on. And then those are the essential things. I mean, if you can follow a good diet 75 to 80% of the time, eliminating processed foods, eliminating sugars, you really are a lot better off than a large part of the population.
Yeah, it's so crazy if you think about how food impacts the human structure, the whole body. That we and when we're talking, people think, oh, okay, if I just eat well, I'm going to feel better. Maybe my muscles will work better. But your gut, your digestion, your food you put in your body will affect your brain. Well, it'll affect your thoughts. It'll affect the way you act and take actions. So it's not just, I don't want you to think of food as just being something that we have to do, right? It's very powerful.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I didn't know how powerful it is. I mean, I've always preached that you have to eat a pretty good diet, and I've always known that. But really, it's also about finding out what food sensitivities a person might have. So I didn't know this, but I used to indulge in quite a bit of scotch, and I like my beers. And I had a food sensitivity test done, and I'm actually allergic or have sensitivity to malt
Oh,
and
wow.
to
Okay.
barley. So, which would make sense because whenever I consume scotch, even though it was the best scotch, or if I consume really nice, really good beer, the next day or next few days, I would be feeling like crap. And yes, the alcohol content had something to do with that. But because I had a sensitivity to it, it made the inflammation in my body that much greater, making me feel
Mm.
worse. And then the hangover just made that it made it even much worse for me to recover from. So where I was getting to was that last year in the month of April, I did an elimination diet for the entire month. And so it was pretty strict. So what that entailed was I eliminated any potential inflammatory foods. So I was down to the really essentials. I eliminated alcohol. I eliminated gluten. I eliminated meat. I eliminated anything that was processed. I had to eat everything that was organic. I eliminated nightshades. So it was really a restrictive diet. Also, I restricted dairy. I couldn't eat dairy. After, and I was eating, I thought, healthy at the time. And it took about 2 weeks to really get used to this new diet. And as I got used to this diet, I was starting to feel my body improve in the terms of its performance, in terms of its sleep and rest. I would sleep through the night, no problem. I would have 7 to 8 hours of sleep. My sleep score and my readiness score, if anyone follows that kind of data, I use an Aura ring. The scores were through the ring. Yep. Looks like you have an Aura ring
Yeah.
too. So I live by this thing. And my readiness score, my sleep score were the best it's ever been. My HRV actually increased. I would go and work out and do a hard training, and I would be able to recover a lot quicker because my body got enough rest and it wasn't in a constant state of inflammation. I was also under this detox protocol that had some supplements, and that's a separate story, but it pulled a lot of the toxins that was in my body. So it eliminated everything that was in my system, and whatever I was intaking wasn't contaminating my body because it was clean. So I did that for 4 weeks, and that was the best my body felt. I had no brain fog, and you don't know what brain fog is until you go a day without it. And it's like, whoa, I can
Yeah.
think clearly. I don't need my 5 cups of coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Um,
Rocket fuel. You feel like
yeah,
you're going.
yeah. And it's a good feeling, and the whole day is productive, and you get up, and when you're getting sleepy at night, you go to sleep and you have a full night's rest. So that's what I did, and it's something that you don't really need to get a lot of testing for. You don't really need to do a bunch of fancy things and buy expensive tools. It's just a simple process of eliminating a lot of processed food and eliminating things that could be the culprit. The key thing is to reintroduce foods back into your system slowly and watch if it has a reaction to your body. So in other words, if you have finished 3 weeks of the elimination diet and you want to see what dairy does to your system. So you add dairy back into your system for 2 days, watch what it does to your body. If you start feeling like you have a brain fog, or if you start feeling bloating, or you start having like your bowel habits start to change, then you know that your body can't tolerate that specific type of foods, and you need to eliminate that from your diet completely. So and then you keep doing that with each category of foods. Like you do that with meats, you do that with, like legumes and things like that, until you figure out what your system can or can't tolerate. It is a very basic way of doing this, and it requires a little bit of self-discipline. But
Yes.
the reward is that your body will feel its best. And I promise you, if you're having aches and pains and your joints are achy, instead of going to a rheumatologist and being prescribed with these high biologics, for as a prescription to reduce inflammation, please try this diet. It's 3 to 4 weeks. You have nothing to lose. It is very inexpensive, and it's good for your body as compared
Yeah.
to these high toxic medicines that are out there.
That's pretty neat. I didn't necessarily do myself in this past year an elimination diet, but I just going to share this, and I shared it before in other episodes. When I'm a runner, I've become an ultra marathoner in the past few years, and this past year I put my body to like the ultimate test. I've high stress, running like 20 miles a day 4 or 5 days in a row, working my way up to a 100-mile marathon, ultra marathon. And as I started to tax my body more, I needed to have more self-care. And I know we're going to get into this in a minute, but I had to have more meditation. I had to have, and I didn't, I didn't have to have it, but I started to crave more of a plant-based diet, just innately, right? It wasn't, oh, I want to have more beans. I like beans, but I wasn't like, I wasn't excited. I didn't read a book say, oh, eat more beans because you're running, but I'd have beans and quinoa and more greens and all of these things. And all sorts of meat started to disappear out of my normal day. And, I'd have it like maybe once, I don't know, I don't remember what it was, but like once every week, every 2 weeks, I'd have a little bit of red meat, organic, grass-fed red meat or a piece of fish. But it wasn't something that I craved. It was just an old habit. And it's really neat because, we talk about um, eliminating things. My body had to eliminate things that it could not process at a high pace and, like high octane fuel. So for me, it was quite an amazing experience. And, people like, how are you not sore? How are you
Right.
functioning? And I'm like, it's how I take care of myself. It's not just the food, but it's a big part of it. So it's pretty
I
neat to
agree with
have
that.
that experience, the way you're talking about it. And I think if you tax your body, like the audience, if you're uncomfortable and you're trying to exercise and move, when you push yourself a little bit more, your body's going to say, hey, listen, you know what? That ice cream at night is not going to be what you want. Or, maybe switch to applesauce if something you're going to do, or whatever it may be.
Right.
Or your breakfast may not be cereal, maybe a hard-boiled egg or something, whatever it is. Your body will start to crave certain things and go towards them. Don't go like, well, I exercise and now I can have Doritos. That's like so doesn't make sense in
It's
my
so
head.
counterproductive. I
But
agree.
sorry, I didn't want to cut you off there, but I think it's powerful that you did that because you hit that laser focus. Go, holy cow.
Yeah, and it was a testament of willpower, but it was also a testament because you don't have any kind of um, gauge as to what your body is going to go through or if it's going to be beneficial. Because the first week or two, I'm not gonna lie to you, it really sucks.
Oh yeah. Like if you
And
drink
then
coffee and just get rid of coffee, it's like hell for most people.
yeah, it is. But then the payoff is at the end. I mean, it is a huge payoff because you feel so much better. And then the thought process, and then you've changed the composition of your gut bacteria so that the gut bacteria does not crave the sugars and the processed stuff that you were previously eating. Even
Mhm.
if you say, okay, I'm done with the elimination diet, I can go back to eating junk. Your body does not crave that. It will crave the stuff that you've been eating. And because you've shifted the microbiome and you no longer have dysbiosis, you have more of a favorable microbiome for your body.
Yeah.
And that's what's the huge shift is that your brain will start operating at a better capacity. The connection between your gut and your mind and your gut and your immune system is enhanced. It's all just from taking care of your body and eating well.
Mhm.
And the other added piece to this is that what I learned from one of my teachers was that i- if you put yourself into a position where you're enjoying what you're doing and you're in a state where you're not stressed out, the capacity to perform is such greater. So when this came into my mind when we were talking about you being as an ultra marathon, you probably aren't doing these marathons at a stress level. Let's say we're talking about from 0 to 10, with 10 being the highest stress and 0 being low stress.
No, yeah.
Pro- People would think that these elite athletes are at a constant level of stress. It's the opposite. They're at a low level of stress,
Yeah.
which causes them to have a greater capacity to perform and compete. And anytime that you're doing some kind of activity with a high level of stress, your body is going to shut down. You can't access cognition as well as you could if you were in a rest and digest state. So that's a big game changer for me. And that was only discovered, I would say, in the last 6 months. I was always in this state of fight or flight because and this is my own personal belief, and there's some proof of this generically, but I think I had some trauma that was in utero.
Mhm.
And when I was born, I think I was in a state of fight or flight, and I never learned, and I never got to learn how to be out of fight or flight. So I think that was a huge, huge culprit into developing cancer for me. Of course, it was a perfect storm when you add all the other
Of
factors of not
course.
eating properly, not supplementing my body, always not, and I'm not sleeping well. But I really think that's where it came from. And so I learned these breathing techniques a few months ago. It's called pranayama. It's a
Mhm.
whole regimen of techniques to learn how to breathe and relax. It's my form of meditation now. And when I was doing these meditation exercises, I had to really emphasize on the movement of the diaphragm. And I would always breathe from my chest, and I would not breathe from my diaphragm. Breathing from the chest is more when you're breathing in fight or flight. So if you say you're being chased down by someone, or an animal, and you're running for your life, the easiest way to get breathing is to breathe from your chest. So I was always doing that. I didn't know how to access my diaphragm. And then someone taught me how to release my breathing and breathe from my diaphragm. In an instant, literally, I felt like my stress, my fight or flight mode transformed into rest and digest. And I felt this amazing amount of relief. It was like, that's all I can describe it. It was like the person who saw my face was like, your face has color. It's more relaxed. Your cheeks
Yeah.
aren't like tensed. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt that. And I was like, wow, this was missing in my entire life. And so now I strive in every day to figure out ways to be in that state because I can operate at a higher capacity in that state. And I'm not stressed out. I'm more rested, and I'm able to be the best side of myself, for myself and for people that are around me.
Yeah. So when it comes to breathing, I just want to share something with you. I ran a seminar and we had a researcher in HRV, heart rate variability research, one of the most in the world documented. His name is Yuri Gidron from Israel. And during the seminar, he actually spoke about breathing and breath work to actually change your HRV and the power. And I'm not sure the pranayama, the exercises that you do, how the breath work goes. But what he was saying is that as you're getting a full breath in, and obviously the belly breathing that you were speaking about, but the power comes in the long exhale. And you can change, if you just take some breaths in, deep breaths in through your nose, and whether it's out your nose or your mouth. I personally don't know the difference, and I know that it probably is. But if you have a long, steady, slow exhale, so you really feel like you've got rid of all of that air, you're actually going to have a huge positive impact on heart rate variability. And for those that don't know what that is, that's where your body is able to adapt to change the stress through heart rate variability, and you want your body to have a higher level of that adaptability. And that's where these heart rate variability scores come in that we're talking about with our Aura Ring and readiness score and all these cool things. So if you do that, you can actually become healthier by breathing, and that's what you're finding. It's so cool.
Right. I mean, breathing is one of the functions of our body that we can do consciously and unconsciously.
Hmm. Yes,
So it's
100%. It's crazy that we have to think about it, right?
yeah.
And so let's just dive into your book a little bit, because I want to get into, you and on the we talk about healing through mind, body, and spirit. We've obviously talked a lot about body. I mean, with nutrition, I'm sure you have some movement, like you recommend movement, obviously. I hope.
Yeah. Movement is a huge part of the prescription for optimal well-being. And what I've found more recently than previously is the way to address these deficiencies in movement. Obviously, you're a marathon runner, and obviously, Joe Schmo off the street shouldn't aspire to be an ultra marathoner. However, the things that I would advocate is just regular movement, whether it's walking down the street, walking around the block, just some sort of movement to help increase the blood flow and also to increase the lymphatic system, the filtration system that naturally gets rid of the toxins out of your body. You kind of want to do that regularly. The other thing that I really want to emphasize in the digital age that we're in right now, everyone's constantly on their phones. Everyone's constantly sitting, and, 10 years ago when I was working in my office, like there was no time to sit because you were sitting around, running around from patient to patient. Now I do a lot of my work on the computer where I'm sitting here, like with you right now,
Yeah.
Josh, doing a podcast, and I'm sitting a lot of the time. So what happens is over time, we get in this comfortable position. It's comfortable, but it causes a lot of issues in terms of our posture. We have developed poor postures where we have that hunchback and our necks forward, and it's all because of doing work on a computer, or it's because we're sitting there texting on our phones. What we've developed is this compensatory posture where we're all anteriorly dominated. We have a deficiency in the posterior chain, and this is what we have to actually open up. In addition to this, we actually have to start looking at our core strength, and that's the foundation of everything of our body, is increasing the core strength. So you put the two together, is increase your core and increase the posterior chain focus in terms of strengthening. Every day we're walking forward, right? So it's the anterior chain that's typically it's dominant.
So we're just talking about front and back with anterior and posterior for those that are not following, but that's what we're talking about.
We don't address the muscles in the backside, and so we don't walk around the block backwards, right? We need to be doing more of those activities because to balance our front dominant activity levels that we are normally engaged in on a day-to-day basis. So those are the things that I'm a big advocate for. It's very simple. It's not like you have to go join a gym. It's just doing some simple things that that are that acquire a balance. And that's what it is in life, and whether it's body, or whether it's practicing spirituality, or whether it's practicing mind body techniques, it's always a balance. And so in this particular case, we're talking about movement patterns. We want to balance out the front side and the posterior and the back side.
Okay. And you also mentioned, we mentioned, even pre-call, just some mindfulness techniques. And I know you use some of your breathing techniques. You've incorporated, you said, are like, probably, for me, I love meditation. That's I'm a meditation junkie, and it's so powerful. I mean, I connected with meditation, I don't know how many years back now, not that many, but maybe 3, 4, 5 years, and been mostly consistent. And it's quite amazing. I think it's for me, it was the game changer in my running, in my relaxation. People like, meditation for running? Yeah, it's like the game changer. And I know you're noticing it with your stress levels and all of these things. So what other techniques do you talk about, or do you promote, or you personally do for like that mindfulness space?
So the idea of mindfulness, the definition of mindfulness is moment to moment awareness without judgment. So that is the definition of mindfulness. And when we are engaged in activities, or we're going through our day-to-day activities, a lot of our time is spent thinking about the past, thinking about the future, and not being present in the moment. And the more present we are in the moment, there exists no emotions, no fears, no anxieties. In the present moment, it is simply you and the present moment, and there's no judgment. And so if we can access that state of mind on a regular basis, life will be so much easier. You don't have to worry about the future, the past, and that's where our brains are in overdrive. We're constantly ruminating over things that we didn't do or that we have to do, and unfortunately, that puts us in a state of stress. Meditation is great, and however you access meditation, whether it's through breathing or through some sort of mantra or whatever your mode it is, but the idea is to be in that moment-to-moment awareness without judgment, which is mindfulness. If you can do that on a regular basis, you'll see the changes in your body. You'll see the changes in your mental capacity, and it may take some time, but for me, the breathing exercises was so crucial because it allowed me. What I did was when I did these practices, is that I was just trying to be aware of my breath, and I followed my breath when I inhaled, and I followed my breath when I exhaled. That in itself is my meditation because it shuts off my brain. And that's what we want to do. That's the whole goal of this meditation practice, is to shut off the brain.
Yeah, it's being focused. That's right.
Yeah,
and the present. That's powerful.
So powerful.
And now that you've been through we'll say your whole battle that you went through, you've come out the other side. You're practicing all of these techniques. Do you find one, whether it's the body technique, whether it's the food or the movement, the mindfulness, or whether it's meditation, other meditation or prayer, like which things do you feel for you personally are the most powerful?
So I do it all. Eating the right foods doesn't necessarily put me in the moment. That just reduces the inflammation that's in my body. Putting myself in my mental state where I'm more in the moment versus ruminating and being more mindful, that allows another way of reducing inflammation and stress in my body. So all these things that we're talking about, these are different ways of reducing stress and reducing inflammation of your body, and that's the key. But you want to attack it from different aspects. So I attack it from the dietary aspect. I attack it from also from being more mindful. The other thing that we didn't talk about yet, but is also having a community. A lot of
Mhm.
people are in this state of age because we're always in the digital frame. We can do work from home. We don't have to go to work and be social. And that's the thing about it, is that if you don't have a community, you are really lacking in a huge modality that can promote healing. And I found that out. I found this out the hard way. And as I was researching in my book, um, loneliness is as much as a risk factor as high blood pressure or sugars for
Mm.
mortality. So that kind of tells you how important it is to have bonds with people. And we are not meant to be alone. We're meant to bond one another. We're meant to support one another. And that's where my spiritual growth has kind of really accelerated, by understanding that community is huge and community is there for us to grow. And also that we're all connected. And when I say we're all connected, we're all considered as one. And that's kind of being understanding this universal platitude of that we are one and that we're all connected. And that's what I believe. I find that allows me to get out of my head and get out of the engagement of being trying to make enough money, trying to make more money, or trying to be in a state of power. It makes me want to be more of service to others. And that's where my spiritual growth has taken me now.
And that's great. Community is, just to add to the community portion. This, how powerful is we've actually interviewed multiple people that are experts on blue zones around the world, which are these places where centenarians live. And one of the pieces of that puzzle of living long is being part of your community, being part of your church or whatever it is. But most of them are, whether it's Costa Rica or Okinawa or wherever, they're all doing stuff with each other all the time. They're not just sitting with their technology in front of their face and going, wow, hi. Like, if this was our relationship forever, this is not a healthy relationship.
I agree.
Right.
100%.
So the human touch, the conversations, the laughing, all these things are so powerful. What they do for us as human beings, because we're not human doings, right? We're human beings, and it's super powerful. I'm glad you brought that up, because it was outside of my thought range for the moment, but it's a big piece of the puzzle, and especially if you're around people you like, it's even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's even
And
better.
even if it's people that you dislike, it's if you think about this universality of that we're all one, right? That's a reflection of something that you're seeing in yourself, right?
Hmm.
And that it just actually accentuates the growth. Okay, we need to learn to love everyone, because we can't sit there and be selective, because we are them and they are us. So if you have this approach that we love everyone, then it just makes life so much easier. You're just accepting and more
Yeah.
loving. You just grow easier as a person. You don't have that constant stress. That's this, and it's not like it's something that you can achieve overnight. It's just to be aware of, and is half the battle, and then executing it is that much more sweeter.
That's it's powerful. I mean, love is a powerful thing, right? That unconditional love that we should be giving to people, and not just being judgmental all the time. That's
Yeah,
also messes with our our headspace, is being present, right? And takes over. It can like be that past or future moment that we're anticipating or regretting. So what I want to do, I just want to let everybody know, you can head over to lifestylelocker.com and you're going to put this URL in lifestylelocker.com/from doctor to patient, lifestylelocker.com from doctor to patient. You get all of Dr. Diva, all of his details. And that's just a little commercial because I want to make sure you're going to get there and finish this podcast. So Dr. Diva, I want to ask you one last question. I think this is going to be powerful because this is going to make people take action. One, we already know people are going to get the book because that's going to be a given. We're sharing this away. But if you had to tell the audience and everybody listening 3 specific things that they can do, action steps they can do today to make them unleash their human potential and just have a better today and tomorrow, what would you tell them?
The first thing I would tell them is to eliminate processed foods and sugars. That's number one. Number 2 is go out in nature and spend 10 minutes to 30 minutes, as much as you can, and just be one with nature, be one with yourself, and allow that to be your form of meditation. And if you can't do that or don't have access to that, then find some way where you can just relax and just be one with your thoughts and meditation, and try to be more centered and allow you to decompress on a natural way. And I think that's important, is to accelerate that rest and digest mindset.
And then number 3.
Okay, number 3.
I put you on the spot here,
Yeah, you have put me on the spot. I think the next thing that I would really promote is to engage in some type of exercise and movement patterns. And as we talked earlier in this podcast, the best way to do this is if you want to move, just walk in a block, walk and get that blood flowing. But if you want to start doing some strengthening, really try to focus on exercises that balances the front muscles and the back muscles. But since we are in a society that we are more front dominating, it's a good idea to address the back muscles as well as the core. And I think if you achieve all these 3 things that I just laid out and you master them, you're accelerated your path to optimal well-being.
Great. So eat more whole foods, less processed, more mindfulness, meditation, nature if possible, and move your body more and focus on that posture so you can actually be healthier long-term. And you said accelerate yourself to optimal wellness. I think that's very powerful. So Dr. Diva, thank you so much. This has been a phenomenal show. And everybody, make sure you head over to the show notes, scroll down. There will be a direct link to get the book From Doctor to Patient. Make sure you get it. And if you get it and love it, make sure you share. You can share on our reviews on iTunes. You can share it on Amazon, but share something, because we are here to help impact the world. We want people to be healthier, happier, not just today, but for tomorrow as well. So Dr. Diva, thank you so much. This has been phenomenal.
Thanks, Josh, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey everyone, I hope you really did enjoy that episode with Dr. Diva Nagula. Like we said at the end of the show, make sure you go ahead, check out the book in the show notes, From Doctor to Patient. A lot of awesome insights in the show, so you can imagine what the book's going to be like for you. So make sure you please go check out the book, get yourself a copy, and take some action steps on improving your health. I love that we have an audience that loves to take care of themselves and loves to learn. So make sure you check it out in the show notes. And also remember, this podcast is brought to you sponsored by the 3065 Lifestyle Shift program. This program is like no other online program. The health philosophy, we use a 3-tiered health philosophy, not like anything else you've ever seen. It's based on movement, it's based on mindset, it's based on some food and nutrition, and it is simple, but we encourage taking daily action steps to help you be better every single day. So make sure you check out the 3065 Lifestyle Shift program in the show notes as well, and have an awesome day, evening, or night from wherever and whenever you're listening to this episode. Bye-bye.